Okay, seniors, what's up, Discovery? This is the first attempt at senior lecture, and then second attempt at actually doing this because I did my sophomore one this morning. So first off, I hope everybody is healthy. I hope all your loved ones are healthy. I really miss being back in the classroom. I miss you guys. So hopefully we will be back in school on the 20th. Until then, there's a few lessons that have been loaded onto Google Classroom. And there will be some more following. For the most part, I didn't want to inundate, so I know it's going to take a while for you guys to get through the reading for Macbeth. And I want you to, for the most part, spend a day analyzing, and then to spend another day actually writing the essay, right? So for the most part, we're going to do an every other day type of thing when it comes to that. And then I also have some of those conclusion questions. Those questions, for the most part, are going to be an extra credit type thing. So again, we live in very crazy times. So, even you doing these lessons, is going to be pretty much a boon for you in terms of, I just don't want to lose my, boon for you in terms of just trying to get your grades, get your points up, and all these other great things, So again, very crazy times. My tech here is not really set up for a classroom type situation. So hopefully on the 20th, I can get back into my classroom, and maybe even doing this from the smart board. Okay. So with the first lesson, we're looking at, as it says, to analyze the following passage from Macbeth, which is Act 3, Scene 1, lines 52 to 77. So what does analyze mean? Well, analyze means that you're going to break that passage down into parts, and you're going to interpret the passage part by part in terms of what Macbeth is saying. So you're just dealing with this passage. I got some questions in terms of the movies and the this and that and the other. No, that essay is done, right? This is a new assignment. So you're analyzing the following passage from Macbeth, which is 3:152 to 77, and you're breaking that passage down into parts. And you're interpreting it part by part by what Macbeth is actually saying here. So you're just dealing with what is being said on this page that is following it. So, I posted this. So this is all the text that you're dealing with right there. Now, how does it relate to what we've read so far? Yeah. In that sense, you are making some inferences as you read, and those inferences will factor into how you're actually interpreting what he's saying here. So this is not like a denouement where he's just talking about something that is archetypal about life. We're going to actually get to that later on when we get to the tomorrow speech. In this case, right? He's just saying something, and I want to know, number one, can you interpret what he's saying, right? Part by part. And I'm going to kind of give you some bit of a read about that in this lesson. And then how does this relate to, or what's the inference in terms of how this relates to agency and character arc. So let's get it. So as you interpret each part, explain how each part relates to each other, right? So, as you're breaking this down line by line, how do each of these lines relate to each other? How do each of these lines, so this gets me thinking about that part, and that gets me thinking about that part, right? And that's a good part of just being able to read and analyze as you read. Okay? So as you interpret each part, explain how each part relates to each other and how each relates to the overall concept of agency and character arc, right? And then, so we've talked about what the agency is, subject and object of agency, and the character arc. We've talked about the character arc of Macbeth, and we've dealt so far with, the character arc in Act 1. So now that we're in, and we dealt with parts in Act 2. So now we're in Act 3, right? And that character arc is going to be extended. Okay, so it says, keep in mind that this represents the falling action of the drama, right? So we dealt with what the climax is, and for those people who weren't there that day, and again, a lot of you unfortunately don't have your notes with you. That was not a directive that was given to any of the students. So like a lot of the stuff that we're teaching has to, relate back. So one of the things you can take down now is the fact that the climax, so in the climax, Macbeth is, he receives the crown. And it's a situation where in the struggle between the protagonist and the antagonist at this point has won, right? It's a situation where between his loyalty and his ambition, loyalty being the protagonist and ambition being the antagonist, at this point, where like what he says in, I have no spur to prick the sides of my intent, but vaulting ambition, right? And an ambition being the antagonist. And at this point, the antagonist has won, right? So if the antagonist wins in a story, then at this point you have a tragedy. So at this point, we understand that this is the tragedy of Macbeth, right? So when something is a tragedy, what happens? That means that if the antagonist wins and the story is a tragedy, in the falling action, things will get worse in the falling action of the story, right? So if the protagonist wins in the climax of a story, things will get better, right, in the falling action. But if the antagonist wins in the falling action, things will get worse, right? So that's pretty much what this text represents, right? This text represents a situation where at this point, Macbeth has given in to ambition. He's given into being the object of agency, right? So how does this text represent that?